Hello again, and welcome to Tips for the Transition, part 2 of my conversation with Christy Demetrakis, an expert on conquering fear. I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, your host. As a life transition coach for women, I listen to stories about fear all the time from my clients. And I have a few of my own. So let's jump right in to learn more from Christy. Thanks for joining us again, Christy.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm excited to be here.
I'm just excited about this subject because so many of us need you. So in the first segment, you were sharing your own story about how you came to writing your book about conquering fear. And I know you've identified 3 steps to conquering fear. So tell us briefly what those steps are so we can then dive more deeply into them.
Absolutely. So what I teach people is that there is an art to conquering fear, and ART is an acronym, A.R.T. And the A stands for acknowledging that you have fear. It's just like Alcoholics Anonymous. The first step is recognizing that you have a problem. And then the R is understanding the root causes of those fears. And then T is all about taking action. And what we're going to talk about in this segment is the A, acknowledging.
Okay, that sounds simple enough. So can you tell us how people can identify if they have underlying fears?
There's this list of statements that I like to take people through, and this is always so much fun, especially if you're in person and you're asking people these statements. And there's this list of 8 statements that I always read to people, and I say, okay, if this statement resonates with you, then just put a little check mark on your paper or a mental check mark. And what I find as I'm asking these questions, it almost turns into the amen corner where people are going, oh my God. So you just get this great, cacophony of sounds. But I'm just going to read to you just a few of the questions or the statements that I ask people. And these statements, what I always tell people when I'm with them is if you answered or put a check mark next to at least 4 of these statements, you probably have some underlying fear that you need to acknowledge. So I'm just going to read a couple of these off for you. One of them is you avoid the people and situations that hold you accountable. Another one is you lack motivation and feel lazy about completing personal and professional chores. One more. You are easily distracted and it takes great effort to return to your work. Now that's just 3 of the questions, but those are the ones that people typically go, yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. So we really just start with that. And that's just a quick way to get you grounded to say, okay, there's something I probably need to work on. So really answering those eight statements is really the first step in acknowledging that you have fear.
It seems so simple, but when you get to the 3rd one,
I saw your reaction.
I was starting to cringe a little bit. Yeah. So tell me, which of those statements most resonates with you?
Well, I could be the poster child for all of these, actually. They say the best teacher is those with experience. And I certainly have a lot of experiences with fear, unfortunately, which again makes me very able to share my stories with people and to be able to help people to overcome theirs. But the one that most resonates with me, I'm going to actually give you 2, is you're easily distracted. You've heard the statement when people go, squirrel, 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 squirrel. Yeah, that's me. I can be easily distracted and it's hard to stay focused. And then focusing on low priority tasks, that's really probably my biggest one if I'm being completely honest. It's so easy. I'm a to-do list kind of girl. I have to see it written out, and I love a black marker so that I can show my progress. I've done something. And in many cases, the things that you can do most easily are the things that are low priority, because the other things require strategy and require you to think and take a little bit longer to plan. And so that my to-do list kind of nature a little bit goes against, this need to be more thinking, be one of those people who really spends time thinking about the big stuff. So those would be the 2 that are really my crutches, if I would say.
Yeah, and it occurs to me that taking care of the things that are lower on our priority list. They're easier to do, and they are less risky. And within that risk, therein lies generally some fear of what we don't know, of how it will turn out. We've never done it before. Yeah, I'm with you. Those are powerful statements to get people to respond to. I love those. So tell me, why is it important to acknowledge our fears?
If we are self-aware, and people who have heard me talk, I always manage to talk about being self-aware. If we are really self-aware, we realize that there are things about us, things that we say, things that we've been thinking and wanting to do for the longest time. And we even hear ourselves keep saying it. You know, in 2018, I'm going to write that book. You know, in 2018, I'm going to lose those 5 pounds. You know, in 2018, I'm going to start that business I've been talking about. If you've been saying that for the last 10 years and you're still saying the same thing, there's something underlying that is keeping you from doing it. And to your point, Maria, it probably is some type of fear. And fear, you know, spans the gamut. It could be fear of rejection. It could be fear of failure. It could be fear of success, fear of change, fear of whatever it is. But there is something underlying that is keeping you from doing that. Otherwise, it's like anything else. We would have done it already. And so it is important to acknowledge it so that you can move forward. That's the thing. It is all about moving forward and making progress. I get frustrated hearing myself say, you know what? I'm going to work on that. And then it's still on my to-do list. And every time I rewrite my to-do list, because I'm a to-do list kind of girl, I keep putting the same thing on that list. I mark out everything except that one because it feels too hard. Yeah. Or it takes too much effort, or I don't have time. Those are all the excuses we give each other, give ourselves really, as to why we don't do these things. But there's usually something underneath that. And that's what we'll talk about in the root, understanding the root of those fears.
That's terrific. Great segue. Okay, so acknowledgement is the first step to conquering our fears. That makes total sense. When we accept that something exists, we can better address it, right? Decide how it serves us or it doesn't, and then move on from there. Yeah, I love that. So I can't wait for you to take us to step 2 of your process to conquer fear. And as you said, it's understanding the root cause. So to all our watchers and listeners, please stay tuned for the next segment of my chat with Christy. And meanwhile, Christy has generously offered to share chapter 1 of her second book, Faith to Conquer Fear, The Journey. So to request that, you're going to love it. You need to get this. Take a note of the link at the bottom of the screen or click on the description below the video. Thanks so much for joining us today, Christy. Again, I can't wait for our third segment. And for those of you watching, please watch for the next in the series of conversations with Christy as she shares more of the art of conquering fear. Till next time.